I've been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, Eugene Walsh, for 3 years. I finally have enough leave time to visit him after working overtime for an entire month. But when I arrive, I can't reach him. I wait alone in an unfamiliar city for 10 full hours before he finally replies. When the call connects, my best friend, Woodward, greets me with a cheerful laugh. Surprise. I explored Oakhaven for you in advance. It's so much fun. Eugene is an amazing tour guide. She chatters nonstop about all the fun they've had, as if she never notices the 30 missed calls displayed on Eugene's phone. I listen quietly. Only when she says she's cold does Eugene finally take the phone from her and say to me, "I'll take her back to the hotel first. Wait for me a little while more." The moment he is done speaking, I ask, "Do you know how long I've been waiting?" Eugene pauses for a second before saying icily, "She's your best friend. Do you really have to compete with her over this?" The unmistakable accusation drains away any desire I have to keep talking. I hung up. Just then, the cab that will take me back to Centuria arrives. The driver takes one look at me and can't help but comment, "Miss, it's already past midnight. This area isn't very safe. How can your family leave you here, all alone?" I look down at my shoes that are soaked through by snow and slush. In a soft voice, I say, "Yeah." Then I smile and add, "They won't. Not anymore." Jenny's POV. Eugene Walsh realized I was missing 2 hours later. His ringtone was a foreign rock song I never really liked. Once, I playfully asked him to change it to the light music I preferred, but he was deeply annoyed by the request. Even now, I could vividly remember his cold, harsh tone. "Do I have to do everything you say?" I had been so embarrassed that I immediately apologized. But just moments ago, my best friend, Woodward, suddenly posted a new update on Instagram. Unbelievable. I'm so sick of the song I recommended to this one idiot 3 months ago, but he's still using it. Eugene had replied 3 minutes ago. "Who are you calling an idiot?" "You." Haley instantly shot back. My phone kept ringing with incoming calls. I suddenly felt like laughing. How many hearts did Eugene have to be able to juggle 2 women at once? When he saw that I wasn't answering his calls, his bombardment switched to a flood of text messages. "Where the hell did you go? Stop throwing a tantrum, okay? It's late and I'm exhausted," he complained nonstop. As if still shaken by the memory, the cab driver added, "Miss, you probably have no idea, but a sexual assault happened at that station just 2 days ago. The victim didn't even make it, and the whole city's been on edge ever since. That's why I was so shocked to pick you up tonight. If I were your parents, I'd be worried sick and wouldn't get a minute of sleep." My fingers twitched, and my eyes fell back on the screen. "Why are you being so unreasonable? I was just a little late picking you up. Besides, Haley is a guest and your best friend. What's wrong with letting her have her way for once?" My hands began to tremble as I held the phone. It hurt sharply, like a knife, sliced through my heart. The driver panicked and quickly comforted me. "Hey, don't cry. I'll stop talking." My eyes were red-rimmed as I shook my head and felt strangely relieved. "No, I should be the one thanking you." Shortly after the last massage, Eugene added, "Forget it. I'm done trying to appease you, Jenny Baldwin. Calm down and think about it yourself." Out of 28 messages, 27 were accusations, and they ended with him claiming he was done trying to soothe me. Exhaustion washed over me like a tidal wave. I turned off the phone, closed my eyes, and fell asleep. When I woke up, we were home. The driver saw how exhausted I was and waited for me for 3 hours, so I paid him an extra $50. He was overjoyed and made sure to leave me with a last piece of advice before driving off. "Hurry inside and change your shoes, miss. They're soaked through." Deeply moved, I nodded and said goodbye. Jenny's POV. While I waited for water to heat up in the shower, Haley posted another update, trying out the viral smoothie place. My best buddy waited in line for an hour to get it for me, but the taste is average. I took a sip and packed up the rest for a certain someone. That certain someone was obviously Eugene, who gave the camera a faint smile. I never knew that Eugene, my boyfriend with such a severe germophobia that he refused to share a glass with me, would drink from another woman's drink. I sighed softly, tapped on the like button on the post, and called my boss, Christoph Miller. "I've changed my mind, Mr. Miller. Is that project still available for me?" He sounded surprised, but mostly relieved. "You've finally come to your senses, haven't you? If you do well on this project, you'll get a double promotion after you come back, and it's just a year abroad. Trust me, a year is nothing if it's true love." I smiled and didn't argue. In truth, my relationship was over the moment I decided to take on this job. I took my time enjoying the hot shower. By the time I came out, Haley's post was deleted. I was surprised. It seemed like she wasn't as unbothered as she pretended to be. Suddenly, Eugene called. A bad feeling settled in my stomach, but I answered anyway. Who exactly are you trying to provoke? He snapped. You didn't pick up my calls, you didn't reply to my texts, and then you went crazy under Haley's post. His words came fast and sharp, and his tone carried a protective defensiveness he had never shown toward me. I suddenly felt exhausted. I had worked overtime for an entire month just to make time to visit him, and this was what I received in return. Whose boyfriend are you, Eugene? Eugene froze. The silence stretched for several seconds before he disappointedly said, Do you really have to make such a big deal out of nothing? Eugene, maybe I should talk to her. Haley's hesitant voice came through from the other end of the line. I glanced at the clock. It was 11 p.m., which meant they had been together from 8 a.m. until now. No need, Eugene said. The more you indulge her, the more spoiled she gets. But she's my best friend, after all. They started whispering, their voices dropping so low I couldn't hear what they were saying before the call was abruptly hung up. There was a routine comfort in their familiar interaction, and that was when it hit me. They might have crossed the boundaries much earlier than I had imagined. After I caught up on some sleep, my frostbitten foot grew, increasingly swollen. I found a cane, flagged a cab, and went straight to the hospital. While the doctor cleaned and dressed the wound, I gritted my teeth to fight through the pain. Then I took my prescription and headed home. The moment I opened the door, I bumped into a pair of arms. A familiar, refreshing scent hit me, and as I stared blankly at Eugene, he gave me a pleasant smile. You wouldn't respond to me, so I had to come to you. My eyes stung. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, he casually took my medicine away and asked, What happened to you? My foot is frostbitten. Oh, he muttered and carelessly tossed the medicine onto the desk. He didn't ask how it happened, nor did he ask how severe it was. Suddenly, his phone rang, blaring that same rock music that gave me a headache. I couldn't hear what Haley said, but Eugene suddenly laughed out loud and teased, If you tell me to come over, how would I dare refuse? My heart sank heavily. The tiny spark of warmth I had felt just moments ago instantly vanished. I limped toward the desk, dug out a few pills, and swallowed them with water. After hanging up, Eugene walked over and wrapped his arms around me from behind. Stop being mad, Jenny. My phone was on silent that day, and I felt terrible all night after you left. I smirked. The grin on his face the next morning didn't look like someone who had spent the night suffering. Besides, Haley has visited a bunch of times already, he added. I just wanted to get it over with quickly so I could focus on spending the rest of my time with you. Ipausad mitsip. He chuckled. Are you jealous? Don't worry. She acts just like one of the guys, and I'd never be interested in her. We're just occasional travel buddies, since you're always so busy. Seemingly unwilling to dwell on the topic, he turned and said he was going to take a shower. Before walking into the bathroom, he made sure to grab his phone. Jenny's POV. Moments later, Eugene called out for me to bring him his pajamas. I grabbed a set and pushed the bathroom door open, only to catch him hastily flipping his phone face down. He wiped the water on his face away and grinned at me. Thanks. With a whoosh, he shut the door again. I didn't walk away. Within seconds, voices started drifting out from the inside. It was Haley who was laughing out loud. Why do you have to make it seem like we're having an affair? Eugene lazily replied, You know how petty your best friend is. Haley snorted, and her tone turned suggestive. Hurry up and show me your abs. I didn't get a good look earlier. You pervert, he snapped, feigning annoyance. I didn't stay to listen to the rest of their conversation. By the time Eugene came out, an hour had passed. His face was flushed, and his eyes were bright, as if a fire had lit up inside him. It was obvious that his desire was stoked. Without even turning off the lights, he lunged at me. But I reached out, blocked him, and said in a flat voice, We don't have condoms at home. Eugene froze and instinctively blurted out, Haley said it's fine during the safe period. I snapped my head toward him, disgust flashing in my eyes. Did you seriously tell her about her sex life?
No.
He immediately denied and sheepishly ran his fingers through his hair. Seeing the look in my eyes, he realized he couldn't lie his way out of it and continued in an awkward voice, It's not like she's an outsider. My eyes slowly fell on his face. All his voice, expression, and actions made it clear where his loyalty lay. I felt like I was the true outsider here. At this point, I couldn't bear the thought of sharing a bed with him for another second. Go sleep in the guest room. Eugene froze and asked in disbelief. Just because of that? I came all this way to see you, and you're making me sleep in the guest room. So, you came here just to use me for sex? I snapped. He stared at me in silence, clearly furious now. Suddenly, it felt like the perfect chance to break up. I opened my mouth to say something, But before I could say a word, he slammed the door and stormed out. I shut my mouth, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. I slept soundly that night. When I woke up, Christoph had texted me my flight ticket. Tomorrow at noon. Don't be late. I replied with a quick text, then got out of bed to wash up. But the moment I opened the bathroom door, a sharp shriek came from the inside. While I froze and instinctively reached out to close the door, a figure bolted past from behind me and slammed the door shut. Why didn't you knock before walking in? Eugene barked at me in an aggressive voice. For a time, I felt like a stranger in my home. What is Haley doing here? She said she missed you, he replied dismissively. During the past 2 years I spent renting this apartment, Haley had never visited once. Yet now that Eugene was here, she suddenly missed me. I didn't say anything else. When Haley finally came out of the bathroom, she gave me a brief nod and plopped herself down at the dining table. Eugene placed a fried egg in front of her first. She took a bite, and her eyes immediately lit up. You really do know me best. You even made it runny for me. He raised an eyebrow, clearly in an excellent mood, and pushed another plate toward me. Don't say I'm playing favorites. I made one for you, too. But holding the fork, I couldn't bring myself to dig in. I never ate runny eggs. Eugene and I had been together for 6 years, and to this day, he still couldn't remember. Eugene, carry me in a match later, Haley demanded, kicking him under the table. You're terrible at the game. No way. We're best buddies, aren't we? Why won't you even help me with this? As Haley spoke, she grew increasingly agitated and scooted over to him until their thighs were pressed tight against each other. Because of how big her movements were, her top shifted and exposed her chest. My mind buzzed when I realized that she wasn't wearing a bra. Eugene's face seemed to flush slightly, and he subtly leaned back a bit. A wave of nausea hit the back of my throat. With a sharp clink, I slammed my fork on the table, then turned to look at Haley, who was still flirting shamelessly. Did I ever mention to you that we're no longer friends? Jenny's POV. Haley froze on the spot and looked slightly embarrassed. She clearly hadn't expected me to confront her so directly. Eugene frowned. Did the two of you fight? When? I looked at him and replied in a loud, clear voice. Just 4 days ago, when she wanted to tag along to visit you. I refused. So, Haley got upset. To get back at me, she had found Eugene before I could. Just because of that. Eugene still wore that same look of disbelief. In reality, it wasn't just this one thing. Haley had constantly found ways to disrupt my quality time with Eugene over the past year. Every time I planned to visit him, she would cling to me, either begging me to go on a trip with her or claiming she was sick and needed my help. Even when I bought a matching couple's ring with Eugene, she would buy a similar one to wear on her finger. I wasn't an idiot, which was why I had cut ties with her as decently as I could. But I never thought she could be so shameless. Tears glistened in Haley's eyes as she slowly stood up and softly whispered, I'm sorry. I'll leave then. With a loud clatter, Eugene bolted to his feet. The sheer force of his movement knocked his chair over. He stepped firmly in front of Haley and announced in a deep voice, If you're kicking her out, then I'm leaving too. Then leave. I instantly replied. My expression was so calm that it was almost cold. Eugene's expression went blank for a split second. He was stunned because I had never kicked him out. Even when we fought, I was always the first to bow my head and apologize. But I was just too exhausted now. Eugene didn't budge an inch and stubbornly stared at me with his jaw clenched tight. Haley snorted, grabbed his hand, and dragged him out the door. Let's go. What right does she have to be so mean to us? The more you take this from her, the worse she's going to treat you down the road. In the end, Eugene let himself get dragged away. I finally let out a breath of relief. Getting up, I picked up the fried egg from the plate and dumped it into the trash can. Then, I returned to my room to pack my bags. Later that night, just as I was getting ready for bed, a close friend, Nancy Dell, sent me a series of messages. Holy crap, Jenny. Look at what I just caught on camera. I clicked on the attached photo. It was Eugene and Haley, casually strolling through a famous shopping street in Centuria. She had her arm wrapped around his, and her body was pressed tightly against his like any other young couple deeply in love. Perhaps they had been acting like this behind my back, long before I ever found out. Nancy was livid. They're so shameless. They're literally cheating on you out in the open. You've been so kind to both of them, and I seriously can't swallow this humiliation on your behalf. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I was about to stop her, a video call popped up on my screen. I immediately answered, only to see Nancy looking like an enraged lioness. She turned her camera and immediately lashed out at the two. You cheating, disgusting pieces of trash. Have you no shame? How could you do this to Jenny? when you were broke, who saved up her allowance just to support you. And you, Haley, you're absolutely heartless. Jenny was the one who got you your job. Without her, do you think you'd ever set foot in such a prestigious company? Haley's expression turned icy cold, but she didn't sound remorseful at all when she snapped back. Did I force her to find me that job? Enough. Both of you, shut up. Eugene suddenly roared at them for no reason. He looked into the camera and calmly said, "We need to talk, Jenny. You've completely misunderstood. I'll come over tomorrow morning and explain everything to you clearly." Nancy cursed at him and abruptly ended the call. I let out a soft sigh, spent a few minutes comforting her, then lay back down to sleep. I had a 6-hour flight ahead of me the next day, after all. When I woke up, it was already 9 a.m. I had breakfast and waited to see if Eugene would actually show up to clear things up. But he never arrived, even after 11 a.m. Completely unbothered, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out. Just then, Eugene called. His voice sounded frantic and rushed through the phone as he said, "I'll have to come see you in the afternoon instead, Jenny. Haley suddenly had food poisoning, and I had to rush her to the hospital." Okay. Maybe he had broken his word too many times, because he paused briefly, then apologetically continued, "Wait for me. I'll make it up to you." I didn't say another word and immediately hung up the call before going through my accounts to block all his contact information. After a long sleep on the plane, I finally landed in Failure. After grabbing my suitcase and walking out of the airport, I received a call from my landlady. She sounded panicked. "Jenny, a man is standing right outside your door and refuses to leave, no matter how much I try to drive him away. Should I call the police?" I hummed and replied as I flagged down a cab. "Yes. Go ahead." I had no idea how long Eugene had been waiting, but the moment he heard my voice, he went completely feral and snatched the phone away from her. "Jenny, where the hell are you?" Eugene's voice roared through the receiver, so loud and distorted that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Your landlady is here telling me you moved out. The apartment is empty. Why is your stuff gone? What kind of game are you playing?" I stood on the bustling curb of Failure's airport, the cool, crisp breeze, carrying the faint scent of rain and foreign pines.
It was a stark contrast to
the suffocating chill of Centuria. "I'm not playing a game, Eugene," I said. My voice was quiet, steady, and entirely devoid of the anger he probably expected. "I moved out. We are over." "Over? Over?" He let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. "Because of a misunderstanding? Because I was late? I told you, Haley had food poisoning.
I
was at the hospital. I was doing the right thing, and you're throwing a 6-year relationship down the drain because you're petty." "It's not because you were late, Eugene," I said, looking at a yellow cab, pulling up to the curb. "It's because you were never really there." "Jenny, open the door. Stop hiding inside. I know you're in there.
Tell your
landlady to stop pointing her phone at me." His voice dipped into a desperate, commanding register.
"We can talk about this."
"I'll buy you dinner. I'll make it up to you. Just open the door." "I can't open the door, Eugene. I'm not in Centuria." The silence on the other end was sudden and absolute. Even through the speaker, I could hear his rapid, shallow breathing. "What do you mean you're not in Centuria?" he asked, his tone suddenly dropping, its aggression replaced by a creeping threat of panic. "Where are you?" "I'm in Failure," I said simply. "I took the overseas project. I'm not coming back." "Failure? That's across the ocean. You're lying. You're just trying to scare me." "I don't have the energy to scare you anymore," I said. I looked up at the landlady, who was still holding the line on her end, looking terrified as Eugene gripped her phone. "Mrs. Gable, please hand the phone back to the security
guard.
The police should be arriving in about 3 minutes. If he doesn't leave, let them handle it." "Jenny,
wait.
You can't do this." Eugene screamed, but I didn't listen. I hung up the call, took a deep breath of the fresh Failure air, and climbed into the back of the cab. As the vehicle merged into the smooth flow of traffic, I blocked the landlady's number temporarily to prevent Eugene from using it too. Call me again. For the first time in 6 years, the heavy, constant knot of anxiety in my chest began to unravel. Failure was a beautiful city, characterized by its historical stone architecture, winding canal streets, and a pace of life that felt deeply respectful of human limits. My new office was located in the heart of the business district. On my first day, Christoph Miller welcomed me with a warm cup of coffee and a thick folder of project blueprints. "You look different, Jenny," Christoph noted, leaning against his desk. "Tired, but lighter." like you finally took off a heavy coat. I think I did, I smiled, sitting down across from him. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Miller. I won't let you down. I know you won't. You're one of our brightest minds. Focus on the project. Settle into your apartment, and let Phalor work its magic on you. My apartment was a small, cozy loft overlooking a quiet canal. It had large windows that let in the soft morning light, a comfortable bed, and a small kitchen. There were no foreign rock songs playing on repeat, no lingering scents of another woman's perfume, and no expectation to cook runny eggs for someone who didn't even know how I liked my breakfast. During the first few weeks, my swollen, frostbitten foot healed completely under the care of a local specialist. I spent my evenings walking along the canal, buying fresh flowers from the market, and learning to cook for myself. Occasionally, my thoughts would drift back to Centuria, but the memories felt increasingly distant, like scenes from a movie I had watched a long time ago. One evening, while I was organizing my kitchen, Nancy called. Jenny, oh my God, I've been dying to talk to you. Nancy gasped the moment the call connected. How is Phalor? Are you eating well? Is it beautiful? It's wonderful, Nancy.
It really is.
I feel like myself again, I replied, sitting down on my sofa with a cup of chamomile tea. Good, because you deserve every bit of happiness, Nancy said, her voice dropping into a gossipy whisper. But let me tell you, things back here are absolute chaos. Eugene has been going absolutely insane. I sipped my tea. Has he? Oh, you have no idea. After the police escorted him away from your old apartment, he went on a rampage trying to find you. He called me 20 times, begging for your address in Phalor. I told him to go kick rocks. Then he tried to contact your parents, but thank goodness they already know what a jerk he is, and hung up on him. And Haley? I asked, surprised by how little her name stung now. That's the best part, Nancy laughed, sounding thoroughly delighted. Without you around to play the role of the jealous, unreasonable girlfriend, their little dynamic has completely imploded. Back in Centuria, the reality of my departure had begun to settle over Eugene, like a toxic fog. For 6 years, I had been the silent scaffolding of his life. I was the one who managed his schedule, made sure his refrigerator was stocked, paid a portion of his rent when his freelance gigs fell short, and quietly tolerated his moods.
I
had created a safe, comfortable harbor for him, which allowed him the freedom to treat me with careless neglect. And Haley had only ever enjoyed the version of Eugene that belonged to someone
else.
With me out of the picture, the thrilling taboo of their innocent flirting vanished. There was no one to provoke, no one to make jealous, and no one to clean up after them. A week after I left, Haley moved some of her things into Eugene's small apartment under the guise of needing a place to stay while her apartment was being painted. Within 48 hours, the illusion of their perfect compatibility shattered. Eugene, why haven't you washed the dishes? Haley complained, tossing her designer bag onto the cluttered dining table. The sink is overflowing. It smells disgusting. Eugene, who was hunched over his laptop trying to finish a delayed design draft, didn't look up. I'm working, Haley. I have a deadline. If it bothers you, why don't you wash them? Me? Haley gasped, her voice shrill. I don't do dishes, Eugene. You know how sensitive my skin is. Jenny always used to keep this place spotless. Why can't you just hire a maid? With what money? Eugene snapped, finally slamming his laptop shut. His face was pale, with dark circles bruising the skin under his eyes. Jenny was the one who helped cover the utilities and the groceries. Right now, I'm struggling to pay the rent on my own, and you haven't contributed a single dime since you got here. Are you calling me a freeloader? Haley's eyes welled with tears, a tactic that had always worked on Eugene in the past. I came here to support you because your girlfriend abandoned you, and this is how you treat me. In the past, Eugene would have rushed to comfort her, apologizing for his harsh tone. But now, exhausted and financially stressed, he only felt a deep, grating irritation. She didn't abandon me, Haley, Eugene muttered, his voice hollow. I pushed her
away,
and you helped me do it. Oh, so now it's my fault, Haley shrieked. The arguments became a daily occurrence. The passionate, forbidden spark that had existed between them was quickly smothered by the mundane, ugly realities of shared responsibility. To make matters worse, Haley's professional life was crumbling. At her company, her supervisor, who had only tolerated her incompetence out of respect for my hard work and recommendation, finally ran out of patience. Without me there to quietly correct her errors and guide her through her tasks, Haley made a critical scheduling error that cost the firm a major client. She was fired by the end of the month. When she came home crying, expecting Eugene to comfort her, she found him, sitting in the dark, staring at a framed photo of me that he had found in the back of his closet. "Get out," Eugene said quietly, not even looking up at her. "What?" Haley gasped. "Get your things and get out of my apartment, Haley. I don't want to see you anymore." 6 months passed. In Faylor, the autumn leaves had fallen, paved over by a clean, sparkling blanket of winter snow. But this time, I wore thick, waterproof leather boots, a warm wool coat, and a cashmere scarf. My feet were warm, and my heart was at
Peace.
the overseas project was a massive success. The local media had even run a small feature on our design team, showcasing our innovative approach to urban green spaces. I was featured in the center of the team photo, smiling brightly, looking healthy, vibrant, and completely transformed. I had also made new friends. We frequently gathered at a cozy bistro near my loft, sharing laughter, hot cider, and stories. I was no longer the girl who stared anxiously at her phone, waiting for a reply that would never come. Then, on a quiet Tuesday evening, Nancy called me again. "Jenny, I'm only telling you this because I think you need to be prepared," Nancy said, her tone unusually serious. "Eugene found out where you are." I paused, setting down the book I was reading.
How?
"The industry newsletter published that article about your project. It listed the Faylor office address."
He saw it.
"Nancy, he went completely off the deep.
And
He sold his car, gave up his lease, and bought a one-way ticket to Faylor. He told his friends he's going to bring you back." I looked out the window at the snow gently falling over the canal. A year ago, this news would have sent my heart into a frantic, terrified flutter. I would have felt guilty, anxious, or perhaps even secretly hopeful. But now, as I sat in my warm, beautiful home, I felt only a mild, passing sense of pity. "Thank you for letting me know, Nancy," I said softly. "But he can't bring back someone who doesn't exist anymore. Are you going to be okay?" "I'm more than okay," I smiled. "I'm finally home." The following Friday, as I walked out of the office lobby, the cold winter air bit at my cheeks. I wrapped my scarf tighter around my neck and adjusted the strap of my leather briefcase. "Jenny." The voice was raspy, thin, and instantly recognizable. I stopped and turned. Standing near the stone pillar of the building was Eugene. He looked like a shadow of the man I had known. The confident, somewhat arrogant posture was gone, replaced by a defeated, trembling slouch. His coat was thin and ill-suited for the Faylor winter. His face was gaunt, and his eyes were bloodshot and desperate. When he saw me turn, a sudden, bright spark of hope lit up his face. He took a clumsy step forward, reaching out his hand. "Jenny, it's really you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You look so beautiful." I didn't step back, but I didn't step forward either. I stood my ground, looking at him with a calm, polite neutrality. "Hello, Eugene," I said. "Jenny, please, you have to listen to me," he said, the words tumbling out of him in a frantic rush, as if he feared I would vanish if he stopped talking.
I
"Made a mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. Haley is gone. I kicked her out months ago. She was nothing to me, Jenny. It was just a stupid distraction because I was lonely and you were always so busy." He paused, hoping to see a flicker of anger or hurt in my eyes. But there was nothing. "I realized how much you did for me," he continued, tears spilling over his cold reddened cheeks. "I realized how much I loved you. I couldn't sleep.
I couldn't eat.
Every corner of my apartment reminded me of you. I sold everything to come here.
Please, Jenny.
Let's go back. Let's start over. I'll change.
I'll
Change my ringtone. I'll cook for you. I'll do whatever you want.
just come back to me."
He reached out, his trembling fingers hovering inches from my coat sleeve, begging for a touch. I looked down at his hand, then back up into his eyes. "Eugene," I said, my voice as gentle as the falling snow. "Do you remember the night I arrived in Oakhaven?" He froze, his breath catching in his throat. "I waited for 10 hours in the freezing cold," I said. "My shoes were soaked through. My feet were frostbitten. I called you 30 times and you didn't answer because you were with Haley. And when you finally did, you told me I was being unreasonable for competing with my best friend." I'm sorry, Jenny, I'm so sorry. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I interrupted quietly.
I'm
Telling you this because that was the moment I realized something very important. Eugene stared at me, his eyes wide with fear. I realized that the girl who would wait 10 hours for you, the girl who would apologize for asking you to change a ringtone, the girl who would support you at the expense of her own happiness, that girl died in the cold that night.
no.
No, Jenny, please. She's not coming back, Eugene, I said, looking him straight in the eyes. And neither am I. You can't just throw away 6 years, he sobbed, his voice rising in desperation, drawing the attention of a few passing colleagues. We loved each other.
You loved me.
I did, I agreed softly. But I love myself more now. I took a step around him, my leather boots gripping the snowy pavement firmly. Jenny, he cried out, turning to follow me, but his legs seemed to give out, and he sank onto his knees on the cold stone steps.
Please.
Don't leave me here, alone. The area is very safe, Eugene, I said, looking back one last time. You'll be
Phoenix.
I turned and walked away. I didn't look back again. While Eugene was in Phalor, wasting his last resources on a futile chase, Haley's life in Centuria continued its rapid downward spiral. Having been fired from her prestigious job, she found herself blacklisted in her professional circle. I had spent years quietly protecting her reputation, covering up her mistakes and recommending her to associates. Without my protective shield, her laziness, lack of skill, and toxic attitude became glaringly obvious to everyone. Desperate to maintain her lifestyle, she tried to find another wealthy partner. But her reputation as a homewrecker and a traitor to her best friend had spread through Nancy and our mutual acquaintances. One evening, Nancy sent me a link to a local forum post. It was a video of Haley in a high-end department store, arguing fiercely with a security guard after she was caught trying to walk out with a designer scarf she couldn't afford. She was screaming, throwing a tantrum, looking completely unhinged, a far cry from the cheerful, carefree girl who had laughed so loudly over the phone in Oakhaven. Under the video, the comments were merciless. Isn't this the girl who stole her best friend's boyfriend and got fired for incompetence? Karma works fast. How embarrassing. I closed the tab and set my phone down. I didn't feel joy and I didn't feel malice. I simply felt a profound sense of closure. They had both sown the seeds of their own destruction, and they were now reaping the harvest. Spring arrived in Phalor, bringing with it a vibrant explosion of pink cherry blossoms and warm, golden sunshine. I stood on the balcony of our newly completed urban park project, looking out over the city. The green spaces we had designed were filled with laughing children, couples walking hand in hand, and elderly residents enjoying the fresh
Air.
Christoph Miller walked up beside me, handing me a glass of sparkling water. A toast, he smiled. To our lead designer, Jenny Baldwin. The board has officially approved your double promotion. You are now the regional director of the Phalor branch. I smiled, clinking my glass against his. Thank you, Christoph, for everything. You earned it, Jenny. Every single bit of it. As the sun began to set, painting the Phalor sky in brilliant shades of amber, gold, and violet, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a message from a local flower delivery service, confirming that the fresh lilies I had ordered for my apartment had been delivered. My ringtone was a soft, gentle piano melody, a piece of music that I had chosen myself simply because I loved it. I looked up at the endless horizon, feeling the gentle warmth of the spring breeze against my skin. The scars of the past had faded into faint, barely noticeable lines, replaced by a deep, unshakable foundation of self-worth and
Peace.
I was no longer waiting in the cold. I had finally stepped into the warmth of my own life.